I'm joined now by Peter Vincent. He's Director Counselor for International Policy for Borderpol. Thanks for coming, Peter. You know, as we look at this attack, we saw one in Brussels just a couple of months ago, something very similar. Are most airports ready? And what's happening behind the scenes as we see this? What are officials and security forces, police forces trying to do now?
I can tell you, having traveled on many occasions through Ataturk Airport there in Istanbul on official business and personally, that it is one of the most secure airports, not only in Europe, but in the world. It has these perimeters of security, heightened levels of security, far more secure, for instance, than airports anywhere in the United States, or for that matter, frankly, anywhere else in the world. I know that U.S. officials with the Department of Homeland Security, where I spent 5.5 years, in particular, the folks with Transportation Security Administration, are looking at additional ways of sort of hardening airports in the United States, building out those perimeters of security even further. The problem that you have is this balance between security and liberty, and airports thrive on the free flow of passengers. They're already frustrating enough when you wait in line, which is not TSA's fault. It's just the fact of the airports being very, very crowded. So trying to put additional security measures in to harden them will only cause additional frustration, at least here in the United States.
Then how concerning is it to see something like this happen when there is already a level of security, assumed security at airports and subway stations and transportation hubs? How do you combat this issue?
It's very concerning. You referenced the March attack in Brussels at both in the international airport there as well as in the subway, and then obviously this heinous, horrific, horrendous attack just yesterday at Ataturk in Istanbul. The fact of the matter is that it's almost impossible to stop a committed terrorist from engaging in terrorist activities in public places. And it is certainly impossible to prevent someone, a terrorist, who is willing to give his or her life for their cause from engaging in terrorist activities in airports, in subways, in parks, at ball games, at nightclubs, at restaurants, etc. And that is a real frustration, that as much security as we build in, and as good as, for instance, in this particular case, the Turkish intelligence agencies and law enforcement organizations are, it's just simply impossible. And people need to understand that. This is very much, and very sadly so, the new normal. This is the sort of situation that the entire global community is going to have to face for a very, very long time.
Well, let's take that a step further. Because we see airports, the United States, other countries have warned of imminent attacks. There are travel warnings. Despite all of these warnings we're hearing from different agencies, high level of warnings that something can happen in Europe, we still see these attacks happen. So is it an issue of not being prepared enough, or how can someone be prepared if you're going to a sporting event, if you're going to a concert, if you're going to the airport?
The U.S. Embassy, in this instance, based in Ankara, did issue just on Monday an announcement, a warning to American citizens that were traveling or working in a particular area that there were worries of terrorist attacks. The fact of the matter is, as I said, you can't prevent all of the attacks. What we need to do a better job of is being more resilient. We need to come to terms with this new normal. We need to prepare ourselves as a society. We need to prepare ourselves psychologically and emotionally to expect additional security measures that may be a hassle for us, but that we should, in order to fight back, to win, we should be going to sporting events. We should be going to social events. We should be going to concerts. We should be traveling around the world. That is the only way that we can fight back against terrorists who, of course, want to prevent us from living our lives and enjoying time and going to Independence Day celebrations and barbecues. They also hope, through the psychological terror of destroying people's lives, of forcing the populations to convince their own governments to really impose much stricter security measures on them. Now, we all want to live in a free society. We all want to have the ability to speak freely and to assemble freely, with some restrictions, of course, for public security and safety, but we must fight back against the terrorists and not let them sort of deem how we're going to live our lives.
All right, Peter Vincent, great advice. Thank you so much. We appreciate your perspective as always.
Thank you.